Hello! In this 3-part tutorial, I'm going to show you how to crochet this loop here. It's a small loop that goes around your neck. In part 3, we will also crochet a hat in a matching design. The combination is perfect for cold winter days or outside activities, for example Nordic walking. For the loop you'll need one ball of my Woolly Hugs cloud, which is white in the middle and black on the outside. That means I'm going to work the loop sometimes from the white end and sometimes from the black end. I'm going to show you how that is done in this video, so that you don't end up all tangled. You also need a Tunisian crochet hook, either a double-ended hook, so one that has a hook on either side of the needle, or you do it like me and use the ones from my Click needle case. This is my Click needle case from Woolly Hugs with the crochet hooks right here. I took both hooks here in the sizes 7 and 8. That equals a UK 0 or 2 or a US 10.5 or 11. You also have knitting needles in this case, and of course these cords to attach to them. The longer cords will come in handy at the end when I finish the loop. If you want to work the loop round, like this, a double-ended crochet hook will be just as good though. I'm doing that cuff up here with rows back and forth. That's why you need a set like this one, or a longer Tunisian crochet hook that is double-ended, or any other click system. So like I said, if you work the whole loop in rounds, a double-ended crochet hook is enough, either a size 7 or a size 8. A lot of times there's a difference between the needle sizes of both ends, but that's nothing to worry about, because I pick up the stitches with the bigger size and catch up with the smaller one. Now I attach the shortest cord from my Click system, and later I will exchange that for the longer one here. Both are included in my Woolly Hugs case. Let me show you how to cast on. Here I casted on 70 stitches. And in the first row of this zigzag pattern, I increased by 2 stitches. For the hat we cast on 62 stitches, so that it's gonna be a little tighter. Let me measure the width real quick, so you can decide if you want to work with the same amount of stitches. So the loop is 30 centimeters wide, which makes a total of 60 centimeters all around. That equals 23.6 inches. If you want it a little wider, you just add 8 stitches. So just cast on 78 stitches instead of 70. And you also increase 2 stitches here. You can see that all this is made out of only one ball of yarn. The cloud is a light and fluffy yarn with a length of 300 meters per 100 gram. And consists of 94% new wool and 6% polyamide. Really soft and comfy. As you can see here, they recommend a needle size 6 to 7. And with Tunisian crochet, you always use a hook 1 or 2 needle sizes bigger than usually recommended. So here I have a size 8, and I will follow with the size 7 here. I know it all sounds complicated, but if you follow this video step by step, it's easy. I cast it on with the dark side in black, so from the outside of my ball of yarn. I'm going to show you how to cast on with the hat. That means I cast on 62 chain stitches. And later on we need to increase 2 stitches so that all our stitches are divisible by 8. It's important to cast on loosely so that you can pick up the stitches more easily. And now I insert here into the first stitch. That's so that the chain doesn't get twisted. 11, 12, 16, 20, 30, 40, 50, 54, 60, 61, 62. Now we get the yarn once more and pull all the way through both loops. This is now your first loop, the loop that you have in our first stitch. Turn the chain slightly forward, and then out of this transverse loop here, we pick up our first stitch. That's the second loop on our hook. If you never tried Tunisian crochet before, I recommend watching my tutorial Tunisian crochet in rounds, or just look for hook or Tunisian crochet on YouTube. You'll find lots of videos teaching you the basic technique. I'm crocheting with this end here. Later on, I will also crochet with the one from inside the ball of yarn. Make sure both ends you're working with do not get tangled. If you like, you can also unwind half of your yarn. There will be some left over at the end anyway. But if you want to use all of your yarn, you can't do that, because you'll need less of the end you follow with than of the one you actually start crocheting with. Or was it the other way around? Anyway, you do that all the way around. Now you notice how important it is to chain on loosely, because it's a lot easier to pick up the stitches. If you want to, you can pick up the stitches the regular way, but I like to get them out of this transverse loop here, because that leaves you with a really nice edge here at the bottom. If you like to learn more on Tunisian crochet, you can visit our group Woolly Hugs on Facebook. There's a lot of interesting posts about it. I put a link in the description box below. In case you're working with a shorter hook and you notice that you've already reached the end, we fix that by shifting all our loops onto the other hook. So push all of them to the other side where your second hook is. And now we get our yarn from the inside of the ball. Get the yarn and pull through the first loop. And after that, we always pull through 2 loops together, a white one and a black one. Just place your ball of yarn so that you can pull the yarn directly out of the middle here. On the outside, I recommend you unwind some of the yarn beforehand, otherwise you end up with chaos. With a shorter hook, you have to change between the two hooks more often. So with the needle system, you benefit by being able to crochet longer pieces. As soon as you have only 2 loops left, you change hooks again. So shift all loops back onto the first hook and start picking up stitches again. Don't be scared, the first round is the most complicated one. But I guess that's the same in knitting and regular crochet. It's tricky, but once you made a few rows, it gets easier. Especially crocheting the first row onto the cast-on chain takes time, but in the end it's worth it. Same with knitting and Tunisian crochet. Once your hook is full again, you again shift all your stitches onto the second hook and follow with the white yarn. Once only 2 loops are left, we switch hooks again. Shift the stitches over. I always change hooks when there's only 2 loops of my dark color left. That's because if you only leave 1 loop, or none at all, the stitches warp and you'll get larger stitches that don't look good within the pattern and are hard to get rid of afterwards. So I always leave 2 loops on the hook before I shift my stitches. We're almost at the end. Now before you close the round, you should check again and be very careful that you don't twist your work. Look at the inner edge and make sure it's always on the inside. Only then should you continue. Now we don't close around like we're used to in crocheting. Wait, there's one more stitch. Instead, you insert here into the first vertical stitch and again pull the yarn through. Let me show you how that's going to look later. Here you can see the transition between the rounds. There's a little step here that you even out later by sewing in the loose end. Okay, before I continue here, let me follow with the white yarn. Because in the next row, we will crochet one simple stitch and one reverse stitch in turns. This here is our pickup round. You need that in most patterns, even if you work in rows. Alright, here I already picked up 2 stitches. Let me undo this one here. Now the first stitch was a basic Tunisian simple stitch, as usual, and the second will now be a Tunisian reverse stitch. For that, we insert into the vertical loop here on the back side, same as on the front, just into the one on the other side, and pull the yarn through. For the basic stitch, we again insert into the vertical loop on the front side, just like you're used to, and then insert at the back and in the front in turns. Now we need to unwind the black yarn on the outside of our ball again, a couple of rounds if you can. And because we use the white end directly out of the ball, you can see that nothing here gets tangled. If you neatly do that throughout the pattern, you can easily use up your ball of yarn from the inside and the outside at the same time. It makes sense for the Woolly Hex Cloud, because this yarn has only one color change over all of its 300 meters, from bright to dark. And that way you can achieve beautiful color effects. I love that you can make a whole hat or loop from one of these, and you can really play with that change in color. Okay, so you always crochet one basic stitch and one reverse stitch in turns, and you do that until your hook is full again. I can do quite a lot of stitches because I extended my hook with the needle case click system. Depends totally on what kind of hook you're using. There's no wrong or right. You will get there with a system like this one and with a shorter double-ended hook as well. Only difference is that you can't work the back and forth rows at the top. But we also need the cord for that. Now we again shift all stitches onto the other hook and follow with the white yarn. When you follow with the white yarn, there's nothing special you have to do. Doesn't matter what pattern we're doing with this hat, this always stays the same. Very easy and relaxing. Just pull the yarn through both one white and one black loop. Always 2 loops depending on what color you're using. Alright, I have 2 dark loops left on my hook. Shift all stitches to the second hook. And here our last stitch was a reverse one, so now we continue with the basic stitch. I will now work 5 rows in this pattern, so simple stitch and reverse stitch in turns. You can see that here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the reverse stitches, and these here the basic simple stitches. With the reverse stitch, we have the white yarn showing, and with the basic stitch it's on the back side. Later on, we will continue with the Tunisian knit stitch and the reverse stitch. It's wonderful that you can have this kind of pattern in Tunisian crochet without having to carry the floats on the backside. Most people don't like carrying floats, and I am one of them. But I like the patterns, the Fair Isle and the Nordic style patterns, and so I'm glad I can use these patterns easy as that. As you can see now, I'm done with the first round. We now start the second one. If you want, you can also attach a stitch marker here. You'll find them in the needle case as well. If you like to use different techniques and patterns, think about getting such a needle case. It's really practical. Okay, we continue. I crocheted this stitch here in our basic pattern, so I'm gonna crochet this one here basic as well, or simple, whatever you want to call it. So in turns, 1 simple stitch, 1 reverse stitch. And now you can already see how the bright yarn is sometimes showing in the front and sometimes hiding on the back side. Now we continue with the dark end. Unwind some of it beforehand, about 3 rounds. And continue. You can now continue on your own until you finish 5 of these rounds. When your hook is full, like mine is now, always shift all stitches onto the other hook and follow with the white yarn. Always in the same way by casting off 2 stitches together. You can work quite fast with this pattern, because you can work the cloud with big needle sizes and still get a nice pattern out of it. This is already our 3rd round. Well, I say 3rd, it really is the 2nd round with this pattern, plus the 1st round that was our cast on round. So 5 rounds of this simple stitch reverse stitch pattern, and this right now is the 2nd one. Alright, now keep crocheting and we meet again at the end of round 5. We continue in part 2 of this tutorial.